Hey everybody, welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and today I have Anna Dearmon Kornick on the show with me. Anna, welcome.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
Great to have you. And just so the audience is aware of your background, I'm going to read through your bio real quick. So you are a time management coach who helps busy professionals and business owners master their time management so they can stop feeling overwhelmed and start spending time on what matters most. You're the host of the It's About Time podcast, which is a podcast about work, life, and balance. And you share management tips, productivity strategies, and real-life advice to help your listeners make the most of their time. In addition to teaching actionable takeaways, you also interview other go-getters to find out how they navigate family, friends, fulfilling careers, and full schedules. So like we talked about before I hit record, this is right up my alley. I love productivity, time management, automation, how to say no and stop overcommitting. So we could talk about all of that. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So welcome once again.
Yes, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I'm really looking forward to just totally nerding out with a fellow productivity, time management geek. So I think we're going to have some fun.
Absolutely. And I was just browsing around your website. I think I wrote down one thing that I really love. Your mission is to ban busy as a badge of honor. Yes. I think that's really important. Ban busy as a badge of honor. I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue twisted, but busy is such a thing that people, you're right, they brag about it. Oh, I'm so busy. That's what everyone defaults to. Even if they're not, they just like to say that they are, and people feel like you have to be busy to be productive.
Yeah.
In entrepreneurs and high performers, I feel bad when I'm not doing something because there could be something productive that I'm doing. So yeah, like I can't wait to dive into all of this once again.
Right. Isn't that the crazy thing about being an entrepreneur is that there is literally always something you could be doing. There's, a website tweak that you could make. You could create more content. We have a million ideas a minute. So there's always some kind of new product or service we could launch. And, at some point you just have to know when enough is enough.
Absolutely. So when is enough enough? I mean, feel free to lead the conversation. There's a million ways we can go. And I'm sure you've given similar talks on other podcasts before. So if there's a certain topic you'd like to start with, and then we can work our way through balancing work, life, relationships, business, where do we start?
Definitely. So I like to say that time management does not start on the pages of your planner. So often people come to me and they have these jam-packed schedules, these to-do lists spread across multiple task management systems, 37 Post-it notes stuck to their computer monitor.
You're talking about me.
And they're like, okay, Anna, help me figure out how to do all of these things. And like I said, time management doesn't start on the pages of our calendar. Time management starts with heart management. And as cheesy as that might sound, you can't even begin to move things around on your calendar in a truly productive way until you get clear on what matters most. And that's going to look different for all of us as entrepreneurs, as people. Our core values are unique to us, and we should want to, and we should aspire to live lives that are driven by our values, not by other people's expectations, not by what we think we should be doing, not by society's expectation that we be busy or, oh, we're busy, but it's good busy. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody say that? I mean, really, come on, let's get a little bit more creative in our responses to what we're doing and how we're doing. And so it really starts with getting clear on what matters most. What are your dreams? What are your priorities? What are those core values? And are those dreams, priorities, and values actually reflected in the activities that you're putting on your calendar?
Very important. So I wrote that down, and I'm just going to be writing some notes down in case I'm looking away. I'm not texting, trust me.
Yeah, you're fine.
Time management starts with heart management. Very powerful. So when you find out what matters most and you get clear, that is your compass on what do I say yes to, what do I actually commit to, and what's something that, because a lot of people like entrepreneurs and high performers, I'm sure you experience this as well, as having that FOMO, fear of missing out.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
You hate saying no to something because what if it's a good opportunity or gets a new client for you? There's so many what ifs, right? Mm-hmm. But we can't live in what if land. We have to be intentional. And so Once you get clear, I just wrote that down. What matters most to you? That's a constant reminder. Every time you're about to say yes to something, you have to make sure those align with your goals. And I'm not telling you this, you know this, I'm talking to the audience.
Yeah.
Just going a little further on that idea in terms of really making sure, am I about to say yes to something that is what I'm looking to do, or is it a distraction entirely?
Yeah, well, it is such a trickle down experience. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs are very big picture thinkers. We're visionaries. We're thinking about where we want to be in the next 10, 20 years and what that life looks like. You know, so that's sort of that's our big picture. That's our chance to think about the future. It's kind of like we said a second ago, it's starting with your dreams, and then how do your dreams inform your core values? How do your core values then inform your priorities? And then how do those priorities inform your goals? And so it just keeps, it takes that big picture into a day-to-day, like actionable plan, because when you start with that big picture vision, distill it from dreams to priorities to goals, then you can really create, whether you goal set on a quarterly basis, a monthly basis, you actually have that litmus test of, okay, here's a shiny thing that I can chase, but is this relevant to what I'm really focusing on this quarter? Is this really in line? Is this going to put me closer to or further away from these goals that I've set for myself? And you know, as entrepreneurs, we have to look for opportunities. We have to be open to possibilities and be on the lookout for those universal breadcrumbs, right?
Right.
But it's like Greg McKeown said in the book Essentialism.
I love that book. One of my favorites.
He has that great drawing of a circle with, all of these arrows pointing away from it 1 inch in every direction. And it's like, do you want to make an inch of progress in all directions, or do you want to launch like a rocket in one truly focused area of your business? And, you can do anything, but you can't do everything at once.
So true. And that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs, I mean, I struggle with this as well. I'm sure maybe you did as well. When you're starting, you have no idea, right? You've got to create a website, business cards, whatever else you think is important. And you want to be a coach, a consultant, a podcast host, and you need to build your website. And where do you begin, right? What is your offer? Who is your audience? I mean, those are things that years into my podcast, I'm still really trying to dial that in and figure out, well, do I want to be a coach, or do I want to coach people one-on-one, or offer a product or course, or do I just keep building my real estate business? Like, I'm still not even sure. So these conversations help so much in getting that clarity, reminding myself what is actually important to me.
And it's something that we'll always struggle with as entrepreneurs, but that's just the beauty of it, because we see the opportunities and the possibilities. You and I, of course, share the love for the book Essentialism. Have you ever read The One Thing by David Keller and Jay Papasan?
Another favorite.
Yeah, to me, that focusing question, what is the one thing that I can do right now that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? I mean, that is the number one recommendation that I give to brand new business owners, to people who are considering making the jump into entrepreneurship, because really getting comfortable asking that focusing question, I mean, that almost always unlocks what your next move is. And it's like, yes, should I build out my website, or should I work on growing my social media presence? Well, which one is going to make everything else so much easier? And only you can answer that question. I mean, nobody's going to give you the answer sheet. You have to trial and error and figure it out.
Definitely. And I was actually going to show you on my first page of my notebook, I wrote down that thing. I've got another thing that I scribbled on here, but what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easy or unnecessary? And so every morning before I get started with my day, as part of my routine, I read that quote, and I read this other one, just affirmation about money. I'm so grateful and thankful, and I love how much money I have in my life. But what's the one thing, if you ask yourself, and that one thing can change, right? I mean,
constantly.
maybe something right now, next quarter, it could be something entirely different if you've already accomplished that one thing that you needed to get done. So very good reminder. Essentialism, The One Thing, those are very good books for people who are scattered and don't know where to begin. they have to do that soul searching and really figure that out first before they start running in 10 different directions, right?
Right. Yeah. So true.
It's powerful. So once you have an idea of your clarity and you know what you want to do or what your offer is going to be, who your audience is, and you're starting to get that focus, what would be your recommendation in terms of just building productivity in upright, or I guess from the up front, instead of saying yes to everything and overcommitting and going in all these directions? Do you have any suggestions on where to begin for anyone in the audience?
Absolutely. So, I said that time management starts with heart management. So let me tell you a little bit about the HEART method that I use in my time management coaching. HEART stands for habits, energy, attention, recharge, and time. And it blew my mind. I'll still remember exactly where I was when that hit me like a lightning bolt, that first we have to start by cultivating good habits. Those key routines that are going to set us up for peak performance in our work, to make sure that we are, bringing our best selves, that we're creating a strong environment for success for ourselves, that we're starting our days in a routine way, that we are prepping ourselves, and just setting up those good habits. So first, really get clear on, what are the key routines that you need to have in your life in order to sustain, productivity and progress. From there, understanding your energy. We all have different energy peaks and valleys during the day. We have times of day that we perform amazing, deep, focused work, and other times of day when we're a little bit lower energy, but our creativity has the ability to go through the roof because our guard is down a little bit. And so really listening to your body and being so aware of what your peak and valley energy points are, and scheduling your best work for your best energy time. The A being attention, really cultivating your attention muscle through activities like meditation and mindfulness. A lot of people think of meditation and mindfulness as this, woo-woo, let's do yoga and drink tea thing that, go getters don't need to do, because that takes away from executing and getting things done. But it's in that stillness, in that practice of bringing your concentration back to your breath through mindfulness, for example, that strengthens your ability to focus longer over time. I mean, it's an amazing tool. It's like a workout for your brain. So, really strengthening your attention muscle. And then that R is recharge. We're not robots. We need sleep. We need rest. We need play. We need recreation. And then we need strong relationships with people around us. There's that saying, if you roll with the dogs, you're going to get fleas. We really are so impacted by the people that we choose to spend our time with and the relationships we cultivate. So bringing intention to nurturing, whether it's business relationships or personal family relationships, that all adds to our ability to stay motivated and be productive. And then finally, the T in HEART is for time management. And it is so appropriate that it's last, because again, you can't begin to fully and productively implement strategies like time blocking and task batching until you have good habits, until you know your energy peaks and valleys, and until you have prioritized, focusing your attention and making time for recharge.
I love that. So the HEART method: habits, energy, attention, recharge, and time management. I love that, because it's so easy to actually remember. And once you jot it down, you can refer to this for those listening. Focus on this every single day and make sure. It sounds overwhelming at first. I know we just talked through a lot of things. You're like, wait, especially for someone who's just getting into the space, they got to meditate, have a routine, have habits, know what their energy is, right? So I think it's a lot of testing and tweaking.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
I wasn't a morning person, right? Are you a morning person, or are you a night owl?
I am more of an afternoon brunch flamingo, I think. But I've recently found a way to make mornings work for me.
Awesome.
And that's the thing, is that we don't all have to be morning people in order to also be productive. It's figuring
Right.
out what's best for you, and also recognizing that you're not going to figure everything out in your first week. You know,
Definitely.
it's
Definitely.
it's step by step. It's building. It's, layering a process and finding out what works best for you and your personality.
Yeah, I think layering is the best word right there, because so many people will see, entrepreneurs such as yourself or such as me and my business, where we seem like we have it all together when really we feel like it's going to fall apart at any time. But because we've layered on things, we've implemented Calendly or booking software and automations and integrations so that our email list grows without us having to manually do it. We have all those tools. But when you're first starting off and you're trying to figure it out, you're like, well, how do I email 500 people, and who do I email, and what do I email them, right? And do I type all these things in, or
Oh
can I
my
automate
gosh.
it? And so
Yeah.
layering is super important for those listening. You're not going to figure it all out overnight. It's going to happen over time. But as
Hmm.
long as you're staying consistent,
Hmm.
you're able to stack those lessons and learnings and implement effectively in your business, which is super important, I think.
Yes, definitely. I think about it like spinning plates, that guy at the circus or wherever with all the plates up on the sticks.
Yes.
You've got to get the first plate going. And once you get the first plate going, which maybe your first plate is, using the email marketing example, is okay, so I've signed up for ConvertKit or MailChimp or whatever it is that I'm using. Okay, so I've got a service that's going. Okay, so now I've got to get the next plate spinning, which is going to be getting people on the list. And now I've got to get the next plate spinning. And it's one thing at a time.
Yeah, and it can be overwhelming because the to-do list is never ending, right? I mean, your to-do list changes over time. But I
Yeah.
think understanding, like what you said, is once you're clear, maybe your to-do list of 15 things really only has to be two or three
Oh
at this
yeah.
point in time.
That's the thing. Like I tagged you in an Instagram story earlier today,
I saw
where
that.
I shared my top 3, which is a daily practice that I have. So
Awesome.
my to-do list, I could not
Cool.
tell you how many things exist on my comprehensive to-do list. But
Right.
I don't need to know, because in any given day, with the amount of time that's available, I know that I can realistically dedicate my time and my focus to 3 important things. And so I begin each day. And if this is a practice that if you're listening, if you've never tried this before, I really challenge you. Start each day by choosing, what are the 3 things that I need to do today in order to truly move the needle in my business. It requires you to really get clear on priorities, on the projects that you're working toward. And by narrowing it down to just 3 things, you're able to set yourself up for success, because 3 things is a lot easier to achieve than 37. And, how many times have we made it to the end of the day? We still have a huge list of things that haven't been crossed off, and we feel terrible because we blame ourselves for not being productive enough or not getting enough done, when in reality, there wasn't enough time available to get all of it done in the first place. So just save yourself the struggle, choose 3. And if you nail those 3, move on to something else. But just start with 3 and take the pressure off.
That's really great. And I'm honored to have been one of the 3. I mean, I don't really have the 3 system just yet, but if I did, this would be one of my top 3 for today as well. Obviously, my goals are to grow the show, have amazing guests, share great content with the audience. And when you said that, that spoke to me, because I do get to the end of the day sometimes. I did a lot. I kicked butt. I feel like I did well, but the list of things that I haven't done is larger than the list of things that I have done oftentimes. And so
Exactly.
you feel guilty
Uh-huh.
about it. Like I could have done it better. I have a never ending list of things that I need to do. And even though you're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
well, everyone thinks you're successful. You don't
Right.
feel like it. So I love that. The top 3, I'm going to start sharing that as well.
Yeah.
So I can hold myself accountable. At the end of the day, you look at your story and you say, okay, I did those 3 things. So although I have 30 left to do, those will be 3 things on tomorrow's list and the next list and so on.
Exactly. I mean, the list is always going to grow. So I just keep that list somewhere else. It's like a bank that I can pull from
Yep.
whenever I need to, and I can add to it without guilt and then just pull what I need in the moment.
That's beautiful. And so for your top three things, do you have quarterly goals that you're working towards, or are they more annual? Do you get that granular in terms of what are the top three? How do you even pick the top three for the day?
Oh, you're catching me at a really interesting time. I'll tell you, I'm actually in the process of writing a podcast right now about setting smart goals.
Okay.
I am actually approaching goal setting a little bit differently this year. And the reason why is because in Q1, my family is moving. And I'm actually having our second child in March.
Okay. Wow. Lots of big changes.
Lots of big changes.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And my little girl just turned 2. So we're
Okay.
talking toddler, newborn, new house, new city. And so as of right now, I am looking at the upcoming year in terms of themes, in terms of quarterly themes versus specifically set goals. And so I know that my first quarter of the year is primarily going to be devoted to preparing for maternity leave, packing a house, and getting ready to have a baby. And those are
a lot.
you have to recognize our limitations as humans and as business owners. And so while those 3 top priorities are more personal, of course I'm still doing things in my business. I'm talking with other podcasters. I'm still working with coaching clients, but my top 3 are the move, the baby, and just prepping for the move, prepping for maternity leave. I know that my second quarter is going to be devoted to spending time with my family and a brand new baby. I mean, what else are we going to do?
Right.
And then I know that the second and the third and the fourth quarters of the year will be then again refocused on the business, relaunching coaching, launching a passive product. Maybe my fourth quarter will focus on speaking engagements. If, things change with the world around us in COVID, we'll see. So like I said, I'm approaching things a little bit differently this year and creating overarching themes instead of set goals, because I know that this is a period of time in my life personally, and maybe you listening are feeling the same way if you have some type of transition taking place where I need to be open and invite the flexibility and just kind of be willing to go with the flow and not expect perfection, or just understanding that we have limitations. We can't do all the things all the time, and that's okay. There are seasons.
That's very powerful, just looking at it as seasons and themes instead of just goals. I know that so many people set goals for the year and then they're frustrated if they're not on track to hit them. And it's like we said earlier, it's just hard to forgive yourself, especially if you're driven and motivated. I don't know. I think this feeling started for me once I quit my corporate job, because before I could check out at 5 p.m. and I didn't think about work a second time until the next day. And now it's just constant, right? Is there another clubhouse room I can join, conversation I'm missing out on?
Always. The
Zoom
answer
calls.
is yes, always.
It's so overwhelming. And so when you look at it as seasons or themes, you're building space in for yourself. And I'm just thinking of a top producing real estate agent that I know. And I was a little inspired, but almost like she was very driven. She was about to have a baby, like pop any moment. And this was right before COVID. She's like showing homes and going and texting me back. She had her baby, and like the next day she was still texting me and emailing me updates on a deal we were working on. And I was like, that's cool, but like you just had your first baby. You should not be checking emails and texts.
Well,
spend some time with your family.
Here's what I'll say is that when so much of who you are is
Wrapped up in that.
Because you love your work and you're passionate about it, it's tough to disconnect, and you don't want to. And if you don't have to, it's a delicate balance. I mean, I'll be honest. After I had my first child, and I don't know if this is the conversation you bargained for, but after I had my first child, I was still doing social media consulting for a couple clients, and coming home from the hospital and doing social media content, it made me feel normal.
That's cool. Okay. I didn't see it from that perspective. So you felt like, okay, life's still normal. Everything's
Yeah.
okay.
It
Awesome.
did. It made me feel normal. It kind of made me feel like I still had a piece of like myself because, having a baby it's a big evolution in who you are. And
Yeah.
yeah, I even if any of you are listening and you've had a child, I was actually in labor texting with some of my friends in a nonprofit volunteer position that I was in about different leadership roles that we were going to be assigning over the next few years. Because I was like, all right, let's do this.
Let's
Let's
get
make
it
this
done.
happen. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's just a
That's
personality
cool.
thing. And that's the thing. You do you. If
Right.
you want to come home and do social media content with a new baby because it makes you feel awesome, do it. But if you don't, then don't. And that's
Yeah.
fine too. You've got to do what's best for you and not worry about other people's expectations. Like that's how you live a life with no regrets, is by understanding and leaning in to what it is that makes your heart sing.
Definitely. And that's different for everyone. I think it was actually an essentialism where he realized like he was committing to calls and projects that were around the timeline of his kid's birth or something like that. I'm pretty sure it was in that book. I read quite a few. I have a few on the
Yeah,
desk. I'm sure you're the same. I
same.
think it was that book, but it could have been another one for
Yeah,
all
I
I
don't
know.
remember.
And that's when he realized he needed to draw the line and
Yeah,
say, I can't take this client call. My wife's about to give birth to our first kid or
right.
kid,
Yeah.
right? I need time with her.
Mhm.
But what you said there about it being your identity, that's important and true too, because I've seen plenty of people where they sell a business or they move into something else and they don't know who they are anymore, right? I
Right.
mean, that's who
Uh-huh.
they were. They were a consultant or a coach or a real estate expert, and now they're not sure what they are. Do they coach people? Like, are they going
Mhm.
to start a podcast? So it's a weird place to be.
It is.
And I think it's important and healthy, like you mentioned, to almost escape, not escape reality, but if you love what you do, then it doesn't feel like work. And so, yeah, we should not look down upon that if that's what you choose to do, even when others may think that you shouldn't be looking at your phone, in labor or whatever the case is.
Right. I
Do
mean, you
you?
do whatever you want to do. But
Love it.
it's interesting that you touched on the identity piece because I think it's one thing for part of, who you are to be associated with the type of work that you do or the way that you serve.
Right.
But on the other hand, having your self-worth tied into what you do and how you serve is a little bit of a different story. So I actually spent about a decade in crisis communications and government affairs before leaving that industry and transitioning through some trial and error over into time management coaching. And during that transitional trial and error period, I experienced that. I was no longer on call 24/7. I was no longer stepping out of rooms to take calls or talk to the press or, deal with some kind of crisis. And it really caused me to recognize that so much of my perceived value was in being needed by other people. And when that was gone, who was I and what did I have to offer? And so that was really, walking away from crisis communications and government affairs because of the burnout that I was experiencing actually opened the door to completely just getting to know myself all over again and
Right.
what it was that I valued and what I wanted to do beyond the expectations of other people. And really letting go of a lot of the pressure that I had felt to have a quote unquote big job to impress people or so that my, grandmother or my mom could tell their friends, oh, Anna does this, Anna does that. And I got to tell you, like after going through that really tough period, emerging on the other side with such a clear understanding of what's important to me, how I want to serve people, and what I want the rest of my life to look like has been so freeing. But it's also provided this really great structure at the same time because now I know exactly where I want to go, exactly what I'm working toward. And it's all about me, not anyone else's expectations.
Right. And it feels like, I mean, I know that's the theme of the conversation is that understanding what do you want? What is it that you truly want? What does your perfect day look like? How do you get your business to work towards that? because many times we are working towards a goal and we get there, whether it's a monetary goal or you're doing X amount of deals or you have X amount of clients, and then you feel like, well, what's next? There's still that missing thing, right? And so you find out that wasn't it because you weren't really being true to what it is that you truly want, which is that it's hard. Someone put me on the spot on another interview and they're like, what is your life purpose? And I'm like, it's just, I don't know, help people make money. Like it's difficult to have that life vision, and it can always change, right? I mean, now when you did not have children, maybe it was more centered towards your career and crisis management. And now you have a family. That's a lot more important, I would imagine, to you than getting more clients and like making X amount more per month. You're
for sure.
To you, right? So priorities can change.
Well, how you get there can change.
How you get there. Right.
Because I can tell you, like, without a doubt, as of right now, without a doubt, the purpose that I have chosen is to help other people live a life with no regrets.
I love that purpose.
How I do that is by helping them master time management.
Right.
And how I help them master time management is by getting clear on what matters most.
Well, the fact that you have the answers to those shows how clear that you are. So I believe you. I'm still working on that. I know a lot of people in the audience, and even my friends, I ask them what they do. They're still not really sure how to put it into words, right? They're not sure because they don't have that clarity. And so
been there.
Inner work, right? Doing that inner work takes some time.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I tell you, like, yes, it is so easy for me to say that now because it's so clear to me, but it wasn't always that way.
Right.
I opened a calligraphy business and closed it. I thought I wanted to be a lobbyist at one point. I ran a statewide political campaign, just trying all of these different things, putting on all of these different, hats to see what fit and what seemed to make sense. So, hey, if you're listening and you're like, oh, I'm never going to figure it out. What do I do? It takes time, and that's okay. But the thing is that you have to set aside the time to think about it. Because when we're running from one meeting to the next Zoom call, to the next conference call, to the next podcast interview, to the next house showing, it's really, that space is not going to reveal itself. That time that you can take to really think through, what your values are and what your priorities are, it doesn't just magically appear. You have to be intentional about it. And so one exercise that I can actually recommend if you're looking for some step-by-step is to start by making a list of 100 dreams. And we've been dropping book titles left and right, which I absolutely love. But I actually learned about this from Laura Vanderkam's book, 168 Hours. You have more time than you think. And what I have found in working with crazy busy clients, business owners, C-suite professionals, is that so many of us have gotten so busy and so jam-packed that we've really lost touch with the dreams that we have for ourselves or that we may have had for ourselves at one point. And so really setting aside 30 minutes to an hour, yes, you can find it, to write down, pencil to paper, write down 100 things that you want to do in your lifetime. Because what that requires you to do is to be specific. You can't just say, I want to travel more. I want to spend more time with my family. I want to get fit. No, that's going to take you forever to fill up 100 things. You have to really dig deep and think, I want to visit Costa Rica and I want to, kite surf in Bali, or I want to visit, historic cathedrals in Europe. I want to write 6 books, on this, and this. It requires you to get really specific. And what you begin to realize as you're coming up with these 100 dreams is that there are patterns and there are themes that are going to emerge that are going to be unique to you. And as long as you stay focused on what is it that I truly want instead of, what do I think I should want? Because let's be honest, it's really easy for us to get caught up in, well, I want a, a 4,000 square foot house with a 3-car garage. But do you really want that? And why? Like, why is that your dream? And so, yeah, like really taking time to reconnect with 100 dreams that you want to have, and then looking at those patterns and those themes that emerge, and then asking yourself, is the way that I'm spending my day to day right now getting me any closer to achieving any of those dreams? Because that's a real wake-up call.
That is.
For a lot of people, because they realize that their days are so full of meetings and other people's priorities that they're not doing anything to move them any closer to their dreams.
Yeah.
It's usually at that point when people want to start quitting things.
Quitting their job and going kite surfing in Bali and all that.
Yeah. It's like, oh, maybe I don't need to volunteer with that nonprofit, or maybe I don't need to be on that board, or maybe I can cut being on my kid's PTA because I can spend more quality time with my kid at home than in a meeting talking about bake sales, just for example. That's one that I see a lot. That's
powerful. Listing out 100 dreams. I mean, this could be a great exercise for anyone, because it's easy when you're so busy with the hustle and bustle of life and growing your business and scaling up and updating the website, endless list of to-dos or could-dos, not necessarily should-dos, that you lose sight of those things. I just mentioned on another podcast episode that my girlfriend's friend, they know me pretty well now. We've been dating a couple of years, and she doesn't even know what my hobbies are because I don't really do anything anymore other than my business is kind of my hobby. But the sad thing is, I used to love to play the drums, and now I don't even really do that anymore. And I kind of work out, but like, what do I even love? I don't even know anymore. I've kind of lost touch with that.
Yes.
And so doing this, writing it down, I've got my business growing to a level that I thought would make me happy. And of course, I don't feel fulfilled. Now I'm too busy. How do I clear up my schedule, right? So those are the conversations you have to have. And you mentioned that book was called 168 Hours.
Yes, 168 Hours by Laura Vanderkam.
Awesome.
It's interesting that you bring up hobbies. Like, what even are our hobbies now? Because, we love our business. Growing our business becomes our everything. We want to put every single hour, every single minute toward that. But studies have shown time and time again that true high performers, scientists, presidents, CEOs, billionaires, they have their work, but they all have some type of creative pursuit or hobby outside of their primary work, because it's in that Nobel Peace Prize winners. Nobel Prize winners for science, economics, they all have hobbies, because these hobbies outside of their core work cultivate their creativity. It gives them new perspective outside of their work. It gives their subconscious the opportunity to do problem solving outside of that primary work environment. And that's the thing that we don't realize a lot of times is that, so much problem solving, so much of the productivity that we experience, that we need in order to thrive in our businesses, happens when we're not thinking about our businesses. Right. I mean, we all have good ideas in the shower, right? But even beyond that, like having that outlet, having a hobby, that recharge that I mentioned in the HEART method, recreation, hobbies, doing things, having fun for the sake of fun, all of that makes you a better entrepreneur, makes you a better business owner, makes you a better leader, because it expands your perspective and it flexes other parts of your brain that you don't use when you're in business mode. So you need a hobby like it's your job.
You do. It's equally or probably even more important, like you mentioned. That Absolutely. Or my hobby can be taking more showers so I can have more thinking time.
Hygiene is good.
Showers are good, definitely. Step one.
But that's a big thing that I realized at the end of 2019 going into 2020. And so I set out in 2020 to kind of figure out, what is it that I want to do for fun? And I've now started a tradition of baking the cake on the December issue of the Southern Living magazine. And you have, like, I'm just going to tell you that Southern Living magazine, every December, there's this extravagant white cake that takes like 1,000,000 steps in 3 days to bake. Trust me. And like, that's like my Super Bowl of the year. I get so excited when that comes out. And I am not some kind of star baker. I'm not even that good at it, but it's fun. And it's just about finding something that's fun outside of work that can get your creative juices flowing in another way, whatever that is.
Yeah, I definitely have to find that. And I mean, sometimes I just get so frustrated, right? I mean, my girlfriend bought a puzzle, like 1,000 pieces, and I'm like, oh, this, like, I sat there for 10 minutes. I couldn't find anything. And it's just very difficult sometimes for us to slow down, something that we all need to work on. Take some meditation time, take some time to just think. Essentialism also, I know we keep going back to that, but I think it also talks about the CEO of LinkedIn, if I remember correctly, takes 2 times a day, 30 minutes each, just to think. And that is where new ideas are born. So hobbies, important. Hobbies cultivate creativity.
Yeah.
I wrote that down.
Yeah, they really are.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Hobbies cultivate creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we all need hobbies. And if you have trouble coming up with what your next hobby is going to be, just think back about what you had fun doing as a kid.
Great idea. I might have to buy a skateboard again.
Do it. You never know what might happen.
You never do. I actually did buy one a few years ago, but I ended up never using it. I went to the skate park and I was like, I was never good enough. And this is kind of a scary ramp. And it sat in the closet and collected dust. So maybe I need to find another hobby.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
So how about, I know we've got about 15 minutes left and I want to be respectful of your time. Are there any systems or recommendations you have for people to create space in their calendar? I know calendar is probably core to your time management recommendations.
Yeah, definitely. So, once you've already gotten past the first hump of figuring out what matters most, one thing that I really recommend is that you take those priorities from, abstract concepts or words on a page, and you associate them with something concrete. So I like to use boulders, big rocks, and pebbles as the visuals that I associate with priorities. Boulders being those big, like Grand Canyon size, boulders that you can't push over with all of your weight if you try, that are the non-negotiables, the immovables in your life. So these are the things that are important. But the thing is that they're not urgent. This is that, time to put together a puzzle with your girlfriend. It's important because it's time for the two of you, but it's not urgent. And you could easily schedule over that with something more urgent or something that's on fire, right? It's if you make time for, worship on Sundays, if you have a health or fitness routine, or you want to have a health or fitness routine. Again, like those are the things that we very often push aside in order to tackle the things that are on fire. One of my boulders is actually bedtime stories with my daughter. I will decline speaking engagements, podcast interviews, evening meetings, whatever it takes in order to be home and with her during that hour that we have set aside for bath time, bedtime, and story time. I mean, that's special, that's sacred. But it takes articulating what are your boulders and then putting them on your calendar first, reserving that space for them first. So the next piece of the puzzle, the next geological formation that we'll look at, these are our big rocks. Big rocks are still pretty big, they're heavy. But you can move them around, unlike boulders. Big rocks are important. They're very often urgent. And these are the things in our life and business that really move the needle and push us forward. This is the important work in our business. This isn't all the work in our business, but this is the truly important, like top 3 kind of work in our business. And, it's up to you to know what those big rocks are. But, this is your focused time. This is what's going to get you clients. This is what's going to drive your profits. This isn't busy work. Okay. And it's oftentimes urgent. It's time bound. It's deadline focused. So the last piece, these are our pebbles. So we've got boulders, we've got big rocks, and then the last piece are our pebbles, the little bitty pebbles, the things that could very easily fill up our entire days if we don't watch out. Chances are, if you've got 37 things on your to-do list, 80% of those are pebbles.
Yeah.
and they're not going to be those needle movers in your business. You know, they're probably great to do, but not necessarily the most important things. Other examples of pebbles are like making a dentist appointment or picking up the dry cleaning, or, you know, those small things that take time, but they don't move the needle in our life and business. They're supplementary. And so once you're clear and once you're able to, you know, look at your to-do list and really say, okay, this is a boulder, these are big rocks, and these are all pebbles. You know, you've got this visual associated with these different activities. From there, you design what I like to call an ideal week. It's not a perfect week, because perfect, guys, is unattainable and impossible, and we could forever live in the quest for perfection and never reach it. Mm-hmm. But an ideal week, on the other hand, is our best possibility. And we can create our best possibility, but we can't create perfection. And so creating an ideal week looks like starting with a blank slate, whether it's a blank page on your paper planner or opening up a new blank calendar in Google Calendar or Outlook, and really thinking through, okay, what are my business hours? Like, when do I want to work? Really? Because Parkinson's law states that work expands to fill the time allotted. And unless you give yourself boundaries, you could keep working forever, which is not healthy. And so it's starting by dropping in your boulders, by putting those boulders in place, you know, setting aside that time for your significant other, setting aside that time for fitness and wellness, setting aside time for worship, or whatever it is that you 100% are committed to sticking to. Those things that are easy, again, to schedule over or just give your leftover time to, that leftover time that doesn't exist. So once you've got your boulders in, you drop in your big rocks. And then in the space available, you
put the pebbles.
You put your pebbles.
I love that. And I'm just thinking on Google Calendar, I mean, this would be very easy to color code.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever's the most important, make that one color. Have those different geological formations that we talked about.
Yeah.
And just put those in your calendar as different colors. Yeah. I'm definitely going to do that, because I'm a filler. I usually fill up space. And now I'm deleting stuff. I'm blowing up with dynamite, all these different formations that I created for myself that are unnecessary. And most of them are pebbles, like you said. I mean, I don't have to do the laundry. My laundry's sitting there looking at me unfolded for like a week now. I need to actually probably put that on the calendar.
I mean,
the pebble, right? I mean, grab a shirt and put it on. That's fine.
It's fine. But it starts your week with a template.
Yes.
It's a template for making decisions. You know, it's never going to go perfectly. You're never going to 100% hit every single, you know, self-placed appointment, every single time block, start to finish. But it gives you something beyond a blank canvas, and it puts you in control of your time, as opposed to giving other people control of your time and saying, yes, I'm free anytime for this. No, you're creating boundaries. You're creating those, those non-negotiables for yourself, and then allowing the unimportant or other people's priorities to fill in when you have space. You don't have to say yes to everything all the time.
Right.
You can say next week.
I love this. Later. This is great. And just the visual, I mean, like you said, the boulder, if you push against it and it won't move, those are the things that are non-negotiable. The bedtime stories, the bedtime for your daughter. You said your daughter, you said?
Yeah.
So for her, that's non-negotiable, right? So whether that's an exercise or whatever the routine is, taking my dog out on a walk, for example, I'm a puppy parent right now. So I have a dog or actually 2 kittens. So 3 animals right now that I've got to take care of and love on and play with and all of that. And so building that time into the schedule, that spoke to me again, because I'm the one who's watching a movie and answering emails at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to just unplug all the way. And I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs listening to the show right now can relate.
Oh, yeah.
Make that non-negotiable time. This is time for dinner with my family. I'm not going to have any meetings or Zoom calls or after, virtual events with everything going on, a lot of those are
Right.
happening still in the evening.
Yeah.
And those can go until 9 p.m. if you let them, right? So understanding that is extremely important. And so do you have any more last hacks that you'd like to talk about or tips? I'd love, if you have one more nugget, I think we have time to just talk about one more quick tip, and then we can share where to find you and how to connect with you and all that good stuff.
Definitely. Well, I'll close out with probably my favorite and what I would consider to be the single most important thing that you can do each week to set yourself up for success. So you've got your boulders, your big rocks, your pebbles. You've got your ideal week designed, and you've got a plan for the week. Your week changes, life changes, things happen. You can't just set it and forget it and expect everything to just run smoothly. That's why it's critical to take time once a week, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, whenever, to have a weekly planning session. A weekly planning session, which can be 30 minutes of time that you have set aside to get an overview of your week ahead, to take a look at your meetings, your commitments, and your deadlines, to take a look at that ideal calendar template that you've created for yourself, commit to your boulders, recommit to your boulders every single week. Look for your open spaces and add in your deadline work, your focused work. These are your time blocks. Understand where your pebbles are. And then once you've got that picture of your week ahead, what decisions can you make now in order to set yourself up for success? At my house, after we do an overview of a week ahead, we identify what our potential obstacles and pitfalls are. And so my husband and I are able to communicate those in advance, which totally knocks out communication breakdowns before they happen, because we know, okay, Tuesday I have a late meeting. Okay, Wednesday you have, a late project. So we're going to do a crock pot meal. We're going to plan accordingly. Oh, I'm going to need you to pick up Camilla from daycare on Thursday. So we're not making these micro decisions in the moment. Once we've got the overview of the week, once we've talked through potential pitfalls and challenges, we set our meal plan, because there is nothing worse than opening the fridge at 6:45 p.m. when everyone is hangry and all you have is hot sauce and some ketchup. Right?
It'd be a great dinner.
So you end up ordering takeout again, and that's not even going to arrive for another 45 minutes. And by then you're just staring at each other and everyone's cranky. So week ahead, pitfalls, obstacles, tackle the communication, make your meal plan, make your grocery list, put in your grocery order. If you have kids that have activities during the week, this is your chance to, map out carpooling, or to make sure that their soccer jersey is clean and that both of their cleats are in the same place. It's going to look different for everyone.
Right.
But the keys to success for a weekly planning session are to know in advance what you're going to plan. Put it in a list, create a checklist. Any opportunity that you have to turn something into a checklist so you can turn off your brain is key. Know what you're going to plan. Know what you need to plan, whether it's your laptop, your spouse's schedule, your kid's schedule. Third, decide when you're going to do it, whether it's at some point on Sunday or every Monday at 9 a.m. And then finally decide how you're going to make it fun, because making it fun, creating a reward for yourself to do this weekly planning session week after week is what's going to keep you going in the beginning when you're not seeing the results from it yet and you're waiting for them to kick in. So
definitely
that is
do this.
That is like doing a weekly planning session will absolutely change your life.
Yes. And so for everyone listening, go put that in your calendar right now. I need to, because I've been wanting to do it and I've been ignoring it. Right. So extremely important to go ahead and plan for that. And a quote that I just wanted to say real quick is, failing to plan is planning to fail. I think that rings very true for this. So Anna,
100%.
where can our, I don't know if I'm lagging on you or anything, so I apologize, but where can our audience go to follow you, to listen to your podcast, to connect with you and learn more?
Absolutely. So, first of all, I would invite you guys to join me on Mondays for new episodes of It's About Time, my podcast sharing stories and strategies to inspire better work, life, and balance. You can tune into It's About Time anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if I could point you to episode 4, that episode is all about how to set yourself up for success with a weekly planning session. And it recaps a lot of the stuff that Chris and I have chatted about in today's episode. And beyond the podcast, I love to hang out on Instagram, sharing stories and behind the scenes, time management tips, and all kinds of fun, good stuff over there. So come find me on Instagram. My name is Anna D. Kornick. And yeah, look forward to connecting.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. I'll be sure to put all of that in the show notes so our listeners can find you and connect with you. And I appreciate all your tips and tricks that you shared with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. This has been so much fun.
Thank you. Likewise.